and welcome back to Catholic Reboot. Today is the 23rd of April, and it's nice that I can finally get back to having single saint feast days. So we're just going to cover one today, and that is St. George. They say that St. George is one of the most venerated saints in Europe because of the time he became a saint. So let's go into it. So St. George is considered a martyr and also the patron of soldiers. They don't know exactly when he was born, but he died in 303. St. George was born in Palestine of Catholic parents, Christian parents, towards the close of the 3rd century. In his early youth, he chose a soldier's life, and that's why you'll always see a picture of him mounted on a horse with a spear. And he soon gained the favor of Diocletian, who advanced him to the grade of tribune. But when the emperor began to persecute the Christians, George rebuked him pretty severely, number one, because he was one, and he felt that the martyring of the Christians was cruel and openly renounced him. And you can imagine that just wasn't accepted at that time for an emperor to be ridiculed by one of his soldiers. So knowing that he was going to be martyred, he started distributing all his wealth and clothing to the poor. The tribunes at that time, because at the level they were, became very wealthy as soldiers. Diocletian said to him, "Young man, think of your future." And St. George replied, "I am a Christian, and nothing in the world is the object either of my ambition or my regret. Nothing can shake my faith." So then they say he was subjected to a long series of torments, and then he was finally beheaded. There's something very uplifting about his, what they call, defiant cheerfulness as one of the early Christians of the church. And the devotion to St. George is, as I said in the beginning, a very ancient devotion. In the 4th century, a church was dedicated to him in Constantinople, and it is believed to have been built by Constantine himself. And St. George is also invoked in many of the ancient liturgies in Europe. Malta, Barcelona, Valencia, Aragon, Genoa, and England have also chosen him as their patron saint. Even beyond the circle of Christendom, he was held in honor, and invading the Syrenes learned to exempt from desecration the image that they once hailed of him on a white horse as a knight. So in honor of St. George, what we should remember always, like many of these young Catholic martyrs of the faith, riches didn't matter, honor didn't matter in the secular sense. It was all the greater honor and glory of God for the one holy Catholic Apostolic Church. Again, like other saints, if you'd like to do a deeper dive and learn more about St. George, I'd encourage it. Other than that, this is a very short episode, so thank you very much. Hello, I just wanted to slip this in at the end because I keep forgetting. Some people will say, what kind of Catholic newspaper should I subscribe to? I'll start by saying I'll tell you which ones not to. So the National Catholic Register, the Catholic Weekly, or any of these Catholic newspapers put out by a diocese or archdiocese. So you wouldn't subscribe to Chicago Catholic or New York Catholic, Pittsburgh Catholic. And the reason is it's just flooded with this liberal Catholicism, and it's not going to help you with the deposit of the faith. I actually, years ago, before I actually came to the traditional Catholic traditions, I was reading, I think it was the Pittsburgh Catholic that was put out by the diocese, and I was constantly writing letters to a couple of the authors that wrote in the paper, because I couldn't understand where they were coming from. Just way off the rails regarding dogma and doctrine. So let's talk about those that I would recommend. So there's actually two very good ones. One is Catholic Family News, and it was originally started by John Venneri and Father Gruner. Both have since passed. John Venneri headed up the newspaper, did a phenomenal job. The two gentlemen running it right now do a pretty good job, but nobody was like John. But the paper is very credible. The articles are very educational, profound. They keep you right in that traditional Catholic traditions of the faith, and they will make you leapfrog into doing more research every time you read the paper. So at the end of this, I'm going to put a placard that shows you the newspaper and the subscriptions. The other is The Remnant, that's currently run by Michael Matt. Now, The Remnant has a pretty long history. Michael Matt's grandfather actually started it in the late 1800s, and then his father had taken it over after World War II. I believe his name was Walter. Great name. In 1967, his father had a falling out with his brother, because his brother wanted to make the move to a more liberal Catholic paper, or sustain the paper they had. So Michael Matt's father created The Remnant, I believe in 1967. And The Remnant does a very good job, like Catholic Family News, but it's different. So, you know how I always said in your house you should have crosses and statues and holy water founts. You should also have those two newspapers on your coffee table. If you can't afford both, you want to go for one or the other, I'll leave that up to you. I don't want to recommend one over the other. But what you may want to do is ask one family member to get a subscription of one. You get the other, and then you can share them. A lot of the traditional Catholic churches, some of the pastors actually get subscriptions and will leave the subscriptions in the back of the church for the faithful that want to read them. What will start to happen is you will become a student when you read these papers. You'll also know where the latest conferences are, and there's some very good conferences, one that's put on by Catholic Family News. There's also another Catholic Identity Conference that's put on, which Michael Matt heads up. So it's out there. What you start to find when you get in these circles is you start making friends, and there's a great synergy that comes with it. You become a full-time Catholic. So I keep forgetting to bring this up, so I thought I'd add it at the end of this short episode on St. George. Thank you.